Let's go through like I guess the main ones in not just animation, but maybe we'll run down the whole pipe, I guess. Like for modeling, what do you think is the like
The modeling
the
software.
modeling software? I'm guessing modeling and sculpting are go hand in hand. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think sculpting for sure would be ZBrush.
Hmm.
I think any sculptor out
Hmm.
there would be using that primarily.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it's just it can handle so much geometry. That's the crazy part because it's not a full 3D program. It's like that 2.5D thing that they keep
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
And then it like to their credit, it actually is like able to like handle way more geometry than any other
Yeah.
program out there
So why
and
don't you
be as
explain what?
fluid.
Sorry, why don't you explain what 2.5D is if anybody doesn't?
I actually don't know like what they're doing
Yeah.
in the background. I feel
Yeah.
like it's some sort of like it's some sort of projection where they project a 3D image onto a 2D plane.
Hmm.
So they collapse
Yeah.
the 3D data so that
Yeah.
it's like a 2D plane, but representing a 3D object, almost like you're drawing a 3D object on a piece of paper.
Hmm.
It's not an actual 3D space.
Yeah.
So you can't do things like you can't go into the object.
Hmm.
You know, that's why in ZBrush you can never like go
Go
inside.
inside.
If you're trying to model a cup, you can't go inside the cup to model the inside of the cup. You
Yeah.
can only see what's happening from like
The
an
outside.
external point.
Yeah.
And you can tumble it and everything like that. You can see the inside, but you can't actually move the camera into the cup.
Yeah.
And then that's the limitation, I guess. And it's kind of frustrating sometimes. Like you can't model a cave, for example,
Yeah.
inside of ZBrush. You have to model it in parts.
And same with like mouth,
Um,
I'm guessing. Like the inner
yeah, like inside
projecting.
of a mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be tricky to model those kind of things.
Yeah.
You'd kind of have to model them in parts. You have to like split it in half and then like
Hmm.
model one half and
Okay. Yeah.
flip it or something.
Yeah.
So, but it's such an edge case, modeling inside of something that
Yeah.
you don't really need to do it. That's why it's
Yeah.
perfectly fine for like most things. And there's ways to get around it if you need to do it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So
but
would
I
you
think
say,
actual modeling, like box
yeah,
modeling,
box modeling?
people
Yeah.
just use Maya, right? I don't know.
Like I
Like
may have
it'd
heard
be
Modo, maybe.
yeah, like
Um,
Moto. But I don't know in the industry
yeah.
do people actually get a different program to box model? I'm not sure. Like I feel like it's just up to the studio. There's no real industry standard for
Yeah.
box modeling.
I think for the most part, I think they still use I th- Maya. I'm guessing. Um, I'm sure. Like I heard Modo is way more intuitive. Blender is definitely more intuitive in terms of modeling. Um, but Maya is still, I think, for box modeling. I think people still use that.
Yeah.
And
I
ZBrush.
think
That's
it
all I
just
know.
comes down
Yeah.
to a licensing thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if you had the option of like buying two separate licenses or just using what licenses you already have,
Hmm.
and then like the chances are studios are gonna have Maya licenses because
Yeah.
they've got animators, they've got
Yeah.
riggers, and they'll be
Yeah.
using Maya. So I imagine they'll just be using Maya again because of licensing.
Yeah.
It's cheaper. You can get like a large bundle of licenses,
Yeah.
which you can just kind of like, oh yeah, here you want to do some box modeling? Here you go. Here's a Maya
Yeah.
license.
Yeah. 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 And how about like I guess lighting?
At the moment, I feel like it's between Katana and I know some studios just use Clarice.
Okay.
Um, I know if you're like a smaller studio, you'll probably be using like something else, like a
Okay.
more general application like Maya or something like that.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
I think when it comes to just like pure hardcore lighting,
Hmm.
it seems like Katana's slowly pulling ahead. But
Okay.
I know like some studios have switched over using Houdini after the new Houdini updates, Houdini 18.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're behind the curve against some of the more established lighting programs.
Okay.
But yeah, we might see some shift in the lighting thing because I think
Yeah.
Houdini is definitely trying to
Take
corner that
over.
market. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. they're slowly taking over like,
Yeah.
little chunks of the pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I mean, I don't think they can take over animation, but I think definitely the other
Yeah.
parts they can. Um,
Yeah. I
and
mean,
I'm get
animation is probably the last thing, the last bastion,
yeah.
like if they
Of
were to
Maya.
work their way through the industry, that would be at the very end
Yeah.
before they decide
Yeah.
to, because there's so many foundational things that you need to have before
Yeah.
you can like compete with like Maya. Like
Yeah.
your rigging has to be like up to par.
Yeah.
Your like animation tools need to
Yeah.
be up to par.
Yeah.
And then they have to be familiar enough as well. I think that's probably one of the biggest
Yeah.
problems with Blender, that it's like so different,
Yeah.
that the adoption rate is like not as high as it would be if it was exactly the same.
Yeah. I mean, they made it like I just realized today when I was like, because I had to reformat my laptop and I had to install Blender again. Um, that Blender, they have like a theme now, like not just the input that's Maya, but they actually have a theme where the whole like UI becomes more Maya-ish. And I was like
Oh,
laughing so
really?
hard. I was like, oh my God, people must be like complaining so much about how Blender is too different,
that
which is
that
crazy.
they need
Yeah.
some familiarity.
Yeah.
But I that's like I don't know, that's an interesting. I think if you're like a Blender hardcore Blender user from the OG days,
Hmm.
you would hate like a lot of the things like that it's
Yeah.
going to go towards as people use it more, because I
Yeah.
feel like as more people in the industry start to adopt Blender,
Yeah.
it's just going to become more and more
Yeah.
like another industry tool, right? It'll have
Yeah.
more of the same, it'll speak more of the same language,
Yeah.
and then it'll have less of the quirks. So
Yeah.
people who are used to the quirks, who are like used to all that stuff, would, I think they might start to feel like it's becoming a program that they're not
Like, yeah.
enjoying.
Because it's like the small company becomes big, like corporate, thing, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have a
I
lot of
get
other
it.
voices,
Yeah.
giving their input on how things should be,
Yeah.
and then I feel like now that like bigger studios that are kind of adopting it, there's gonna be a lot more like
Pressure.
other ulterior motives.
Yeah.
Because Blender's like for the longest time just been like open source. It's been like a hobbyist thing.
Hmm.
It's been like an indie thing. But now you have like, was it like Ubisoft and
Hmm.
like other like big like companies? They're
Yeah.
gonna want to start to push Blender in a direction that kind of benefits them. Maybe it's like, oh, we need more pipeline tools,
Integration.
like
Yeah.
things to integrate with our other software. So
Yeah.
they're gonna start trying to like push the devs in a certain way.
Yeah.
So it could be interesting, or they might be writing parts of Blender that um, tailor to their needs, but might not be used for other indie people. But
I'm guessing
yeah,
they're
it'll be
gonna have
interesting.
like two. It might become like Blender would split off into two, where it's like for the hobbyist or like the average user, and the corporate or like the studio users.
Yeah,
But I hope they don't like
Blender production.
change. Yeah, I just hope they don't change it so much where it's like two different softwares entirely. You know,
Yeah,
because yeah, like I mean, even though like I'm still getting used to Blender, but I think there's a lot of stuff that, it's good. Like that's why people created Blender because there's so many silly things that, other corporate software has, I guess, that don't
it's never gonna
provide,
need.
yeah, that don't
Yeah,
provide these certain simple functions, right? It's sort of like that's one thing like with Autodesk, I think, where they're so big, they basically dominate the market, right? Every year they just release somewhat. It's more improved. Like there's some functions that become better, but in general, it feels like they're always lagging behind.
yeah,
Um,
they kind of stagnated to what a
yeah,
lot of people think.
yeah. So I'm like, and Blender's the guy who's like, no, they did their own thing, and there are a
Yeah,
lot of things that are
they're
more
always
efficient in that
innovating.
software. Exactly,
Yeah,
and that's what they need to keep, and they should never give that away.
yeah.
Because
I
I
think
st-
that's a good thing. Maybe it's part of being open source is like it definitely fosters innovation because everyone can, kind of give like anyone can help out. If you're good enough at coding, you can help out. You can jump in. You have a great idea. You can kind of do like a proof of concept and try to push Blender in a certain direction. Add that little mark yourself into the program. So I think it definitely fosters innovation that way. People can kind of write their own things. Like I guess being like a corporate program, you're gonna have like corporate like what do you call it, like corporate motives. So you want to push the program in a certain way to sell more copies and to become more dominant in the market and whatnot. So might not necessarily align with what artists enjoy using.
Exactly.
And that's maybe that's the disconnect.
Because I mean, that definitely is. I think like even you just think about it, like Maya, it's like a sports game. They release one every year. When it's not like, then they force people to buy. I'm guessing that to buy a new, like really license, right? Or you have to
you
subscribe.
Renew,
And it's like but those updates don't really doesn't really justify me buying a whole new Maya. Creatives have spoken, where it's like, okay, we don't want to pay like that much to create to create art or create digital
especially
art.
When like Blender's free. It's like, how do you justify paying thousands of dollars?
Exactly. So I think like they're doing a good job in that front, and I think it's just a matter of time, because like you said, Ubisoft already adopted Blender, and I think there was a Netflix show, I forgot what it was called, I think it's called Next Gen, that used Blender.
That was Blender as well.
So I'm like, it's just a matter of time.
It's definitely a shift, I think. Like people are starting to realize that like it's probably the right way to go in the long run. It's definitely going to be a long run kind of play where like Blender would slowly take over. It's not going to happen overnight. And I think a lot of people feel like it's going to happen really quick, but I think it'll take a long time because studios are just so kind of built around these old tools, that the pipeline is so integrated with all the old tools. And if you need to get a development team to kind of hook into a new program, that's that's a huge like multi-year commitment to get it to the level where they're satisfied that it's like a productive thing. And not to mention like just retraining the entire industry. Like all the animators would have to learn Blender. They'd have to be as proficient. For everything to be as profitable right now, it'll take a while. So I think it is a slow journey, but it is one that it's gonna happen, I think.
Maybe they should target the young generation, the students.
I think that could be I know Ubisoft would be, right? If they they'll be looking for Blender people because they switched over to Blender, then that's definitely gonna give more incentive for like new up and comers to learn it. It's the old generation, I guess, that they're gonna have to try to get it switch over, or or not just die. I wouldn't even say we're the old gen, but
sometimes it feels like it. It feels like I'm an old gen now. Like,
it does feel like, it has been a few years. So
it's
some
crazy.
Years on our belt now.
Like when I'm at the studio now, I'm like, I'm giving tips and, writing wiki pages to make things more efficient. I'm like, man, Jesus, when did I become this guy?
I remember I was a junior not so long ago. But wait, it is. It is a long time ago.
Thanks for watching or listening to our content. If you like what you saw, feel free to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks again. Peace.